Welcome to the show. Yes. Hey, hey, hey. Whoa. Control yourselves. Save some for after the show. It's Friday, so you know what that means. Let's welcome tonight's guests. That's not a bowl of oatmeal with shoes. It's Fox and Friends first co-host Todd Pyro. To her, Deliverance was a home movie, co-host of The Bottom Line on Fox. Dagan McDowell. He wrote for Cheers, and that's the last time he heard them. TV writer and producer Rob Long. And Old Men Will Grieve When She Goes on Leave, New York Times best-selling author. Kat Timpf. Greg's Leftovers. Before we get to some news stories, let's do this. Greg's Leftovers. This is great, it's leftovers. Where I read the jokes we didn't use this week. As always, it's my first time reading them, so if they suck, I will shoot Joe Maki in the face. In Florida, a stripper has been arrested for hitting a 7-Eleven clerk in the face with a banana. Her case is currently under appeal. Former New York Congressman and convicted sex offender Anthony Weiner is considering a run for city council. I know, he let everyone know via Amber Alert. Michigan State Representative Lori Pohutsky said that, in order to protest Trump's victory, she sterilized herself so she can't have kids. No punchline needed. Also keeping her sterile, every man's eyes. According to the National Chicken Council, Americans will eat 1.42 billion chicken wings while watching the Super Bowl. 1.5 billion if you count this guy. Right about now, Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker is having himself lowered into a vat of blue cheese dip. He's got his fat pants on for the Super Bowl. A sex health expert claims that a very large penis can cause men to suffer self-esteem issues and mental distress. God, why am I still doing this job? It appears Frontier Airlines may actually merge with Spirit Airlines. Their new name? Greyhound. Katie Couric said that covering Donald Trump is really hard. That's the first time really hard and Katie Couric have been used in the same sentence. Bret Baier is going to interview Trump at Mar-a-Lago for the Super Bowl pregame show. Meanwhile, Kristi Noem is not allowed within 100 feet of the Puppy Bowl. It's been reported that Mexican cartels have advised illegal immigrants to spit in and urinate on ICE agents' food. To all those illegal immigrants, I say, Brian Kilmeade is an ICE agent. Illegal border crossings have plummeted 90% since Trump returned to the White House. Also plummeting 90%? Sales of El Caminos. Hillary Clinton criticized Elon Musk and Doge for hiring a 22-year-old to review the FAA. She's just mad because the last time someone hired a 22-year-old, she banged her husband. According to the New York Post, 72-year-old Bill Belichick and his 24-year-old girlfriend, Jordan Hudson, are rumored to be engaged. It was love at first will. Word is she reached out to Tom Brady on how to deal with deflated balls. California Attorney General Rob Bonta announced that Kamala Harris would clear out the field if she runs for California governor. Wow. Saying a black woman would clear out the field? Why not put her face on a bottle of syrup while you're at it? One former DNC official said he didn't find a single Democrat who wants Kamala Harris to run again. I know there's one married Democrat who wants her to run again, just so he can get her out of the house and go back to banging nannies. And finally, for a $10 donation, a zoo will send a video of a pooping elephant to your ex or someone else you hate. Not that the elephant needs the money. To the monologue. The Trump administration laid off nearly all of the USAID agency staff, reducing the number from 10,000 worldwide to just under 300. You're welcome. Oddly, the USAID beneficiaries abroad don't seem to be the ones complaining. The foreign heads of state are so quiet. Yet Democrats are crying over the fact that their years-long scams might be toast. This is happening because Doge has exposed a pile of programs funded by USAID to push gender and trans propaganda in foreign countries, places where such things don't seem to benefit stability. Because nothing will bring a Muslim country together like drag queens reading the Quran to kids. But that's the point. You have to destroy the world to build a new one. Where men can watch girls pee in locker rooms. I've said before that the racial and gender conflict incited in America was designed to keep a unified population from focusing on bigger problems, like crime, immigration, the economy, and of course, corruption. But it wasn't to overthrow a government, it was designed to preserve the government. They are building a moat around their power. As we learn that USAID was creating instability abroad. We see these same dirty tricks coming home. It's as if Epstein Island moved to Georgetown. Once you find yourself with a populist president who wasn't the elite choice. Instability must be created artificially, kind of like a lab in China. This means introducing the endless combustion of identity politics. Elevate one's identity above others. And you create conflict among groups. There goes populist unity. People turn on themselves. What seemed to be an exported strategy to handicap third world nations has returned to where it started, like a sexually confused boomerang. So, imagine if we looked at America as a foreign country. When Trump won, USAID did what they've done abroad. A populist president, not an establishment puppet. What followed? Organized, immediate protests. Race, gender, climate. The three horsemen of funded, organized dissent. Meanwhile, the fourth sat next to Whoopi Goldberg. The color revolution, USAID, and the deep state's panic. At The View, it was a color revolution, one funded by taxpayers. Suddenly, there were trained agitators in the streets, holding freshly printed signs and assembling robust crowds, all fueled by a media machine that thrives on incendiary hoaxes. Add to that a crusade against so-called misinformation, which, in reality, is just a cover for censorship. Sound familiar? Sounds like everything USAID did in other countries. Now, maybe we didn't mind USAID before. Sure, they toppled governments overseas. But that could never happen here. Right? Wrong. Now, by shining a light on what USAID and our government were really doing, we find that they did try to destroy a populist movement, all because it was a challenge to their power. Their weapon of choice? Identity politics. It was divide and conquer. Like when I got into that sword fight with conjoined twins. No wonder the left is freaking out. The truth is out. They weren't just exporting chaos to the world. They were growing it right here at home, and forcing us to swallow it whole. Todd Pyro's take. The fake outrage over USAID cuts. So today, I guess Trump laid off all these USAID workers. And it amazes me that the very people USAID was supposedly helping don't care. You're not hearing complaints from foreign countries. Instead, you're seeing old Democrats screaming about it. What do you think? Todd Pyro, my favorite unknown and obscure host? Todd. Just because I'm on at 5 a.m.? Yes. No. He's right. Nobody knows who I am. I could walk nude through the streets of New York City, and nobody would care. Greg. I dare you. Todd. I think you nailed it. Let's face it, the people complaining aren't complaining on behalf of the American people. This isn't a winning issue for Democrats or the left. It's not like swing state voters are saying, oh no, bring back USAID. Americans, regardless of political party, don't want to fund foreign nations while hurting our own people. The loudest complainers are the ones benefiting from the grift. And they will keep complaining. Because they have a lot to lose. Decades-long careers are about to go up in smoke, all because we stopped giving them our taxpayer dollars. Take Asheville, North Carolina, for example. People there have been in an existential fight for survival for months. Yet, USAID was out here giving money away, like $425 to Indonesian coffee companies, so they could become more gender-friendly. What the hell does that even mean? That's money that should be helping American citizens in need. And thank God Trump is ending it. Because people in America need that money, and they need it now. The real face of USAID, Dagan McDowell's take. Greg. An impassioned speech from, what's his name? The nude guy running through the streets of New York. Dagan. We always hear about the great humanitarian work USAID does. But then you dig deeper. And it makes you wonder, was that humanitarian work just a cover for something else? Dagan. I don't even believe the humanitarian work actually happens. Take Afghanistan, for example. USAID worked in war-torn areas like Iraq and Afghanistan to rebuild them. But what really happened? All we ever got was cheerleading from Washington. Nobody ever tracked the money, because that would mean accountability. If they had to report on the outcomes, their budget wouldn't get replenished. So in Afghanistan, we'd hear, oh, we built a hospital, but there were no doctors, no drugs, and no patients. We built a school, but no teachers, no students, no books. And as for Western North Carolina, since I am 1/16th hillbilly, The rest is redneck tobacco farmer. I wish they had gone there. For every weepy, con artist USAID worker, they should have brought in a flag-waving, God-fearing, gun-toting patriot, and let them fire that worker on the spot. That would have been the best TV show ever. Rob Long on the insanity of wasted money. Greg. Rob. It's been a while. You look like you're selling gold now. Rob. Well, you know. Greg. Now that you're a parent, are you thinking about your portfolio? I hear now is the best time to buy gold. Precious metals. Stones. I got artifacts too. Don't worry about it. Greg. Was there a question? Or did you just want to do a sales pitch? Rob. I forgot that this isn't the most buttoned-up show. Greg. I have no idea where you stand on this. Rob. I haven't talked to you since the election. Rob. I keep up with your views. But this whole thing. How could you not hear about it and not be outraged? It makes me furious that I didn't even know we were giving away this much money, for nothing. And honestly, I would have liked some. Like, where's my check? If you're giving out $400, and there's no outcome required. Why didn't I get some? I'm from Hollywood, we'd be great at this. We know how to burn money on things that go nowhere. I feel like my whole career has prepared me to be a USAID recipient. Take a huge check, then do nothing with it. That's literally what we do. Government waste, gender-friendly coffee, and a radical overreaction. This level of expertise, and this bastard president, has stopped it. You look like, am I not getting it? Am I not understanding? Greg. No, you are getting it. You just look like a Columbo villain. The greatest Columbo villains were always like, Lieutenant, I don't have time for your nonsense. I'm busy putting on my ascot. And then, boom, you're going down. But first, one more question. Just one more. The taxpayer rip-off. So, Kat, you hate taxes more than anyone. It's already bad enough that they're taking our money for stupid things like roads. But now, they're sending it all over the world for nonsense? Kat. Yeah, I saw this sentence in the New York Times. He only kept the people specializing in health and humanitarian assistance. And that's bad? It's horrible. Because the way they frame it makes it sound like Donald Trump took our money. That's not what happened. What happened was, the government took my money. Your money. Your money. Your money, everyone's money. They gave it to themselves for this nonsense, like you said. Gender-friendly coffee companies. What does that even mean? That sounds like an idea someone would come up with after a bong rip while trying to come down from a cocaine bender. Those ideas shouldn't be funded. Those ideas should be the kind where you wake up the next morning and go, wow, that was a terrible idea. And then you go get help. But instead, they're at the highest levels of our government. It's ridiculous. And I think it's a good thing that it's being exposed. People should be offended. Everyone should be offended. Because this is where your money, the money that's taken out of your paycheck, is going. You are working for free for part of the year, and for what? For this? And the people who are pissed off on TV aren't mad that this is happening. They're mad that we found out about it. It's like, aren't we supposed to have government transparency? And now that we finally do, they're freaking out. It's absurd. Greg, you know what? It's been going on for 40 or 50 years. And everybody knew about it. And it took a man who almost lost his life last summer to stand up and say, y'all, no more. Applause. A radical overreaction. Up next, she threw shade at Trump by getting spayed. Oh, I love this. A TDS Karen has made herself barren. Tonight, in WTF. A Michigan Democrat politician says she was sterilized so she wouldn't have to go through pregnancy with Donald Trump in office. She boasted that she voluntarily became sterile because she wasn't sure she would have access to contraception. Talk about cutting off your nose to spite your ovaries. Look, lady, if you wanted guys not to knock you up, all you had to do was open your mouth. Because honestly, there's no better birth control for an insane leftist than just being yourself. Dagon. I don't know about you, but this feels like an overreaction. Weren't there a few steps before jumping straight to sterilization? Like, writing an angry letter? Greg. Yeah, she is a politician. You know what she's really saying? Dagon. That she can't turn down all the get down she's getting? That she's getting so much action. She had to go get her lady parts rearranged? Yeah, that's what she's saying. Oh, and also, she promoted herself as the first bisexual member of the Michigan House. So this is just a ruse, right? Because she's got options. She's not really giving up anything. Honestly, I think those pink kitty cat hats got too tight, and now sterilization is the next step. Do you think this will catch on? Greg. No. Because it won't reproduce. Dagon. Exactly. If you really wanted to get back at someone, you wouldn't sterilize yourself. You'd create a whole army of little yous. You'd repopulate. That's how you win. The language of sterilization. Greg. Cat, you're kind of a fan of linguistics. I have a problem with the word sterilized. It's misleading. It sounds like you're just getting really clean. Like, oh, I got sterilized. Cat. Yeah, no, I think she's right. Like, Donald Trump became president, and now look at me. That's the only thing I can think of that happened. Laughter. Greg. She's also come out and said, people are so pressed about my decision, but I'm not pressed about it myself. Well, okay, that's great. It's your body. It's the choice you made. Nobody is forcing you to do anything. And let's be real, birth control isn't going anywhere. Especially not in Michigan. I mean, sure, maybe she's making a political statement. But also, is she? Overreaction. The Democrats' favorite move. Rob. I go back to the phrase overreaction. It seems like Democrats haven't learned their lesson. They always take everything to the absolute extreme. I mean, seriously. This isn't The Handmaid's Tale. No one was forcing her to do this. She just wanted attention. And you know what? She got it. Congratulations. You sterilized yourself, for absolutely no reason. And nobody cares. The left's overreaction and the future of precious metals. The left overreacts to everything. And their overreaction is exactly what has driven the American people away from them. Greg. First off, I just want to say, I've been away from the show for a while. And I'm so glad that you are pregnant. I didn't know what to say, you know. That's always the mistake. Like, when does it due? And I'm just standing there thinking, when do what? The cheesesteak I had? You look great. Thank God. Cat. Thank you. Greg. So yes, it is an overreaction. And now that you're with child, you could perhaps use a financial product. Cat. Yeah, I want to just cover my baby in gold. Greg. Cat. Have you thought about the future in precious metals? A universal store of value for 2.000 years. Or what about grain in a silo? Whatever it takes to make a sale. I'll tell you, you should buy it for your baby. Todd. Thank God. I felt very uncomfortable when you said lady parts. Greg. I'll be honest. And I'll just say that the overreaction is fine. I'm not sure that we're going to be deprived, in fact. This would be a very good use of USAID funds. Encourage more liberals to sterilize themselves. Just give them the option. Greg. Yes, exactly. Trump resistance 2.0 and self-sterilization. Greg. So, Todd, do you have something thoughtful to say? Todd. Yeah, I may. I mean, nothing says I showed them. Like mutilating your body and depriving yourself of the love of a child. That just seems so crazy to me. But this just shows where they are in Trump resistance 2.0. They know they can't win, because Trump controls all the levers of DC. The only way they can try to fight back is by doing something ridiculous like this. Or by doing something illegal. A lot of these officials are saying, we're going to ignore federal law. And Tom Homan and Pam Bondi are like, okay, we're going to put you in jail. So they have no recourse other than saying, we're going to sterilize ourselves. And that is example number 999.000 of how Trump won. He's winning again. He's enacting his agenda over the last few weeks through executive orders. And now he's driving the left even more insane than they were in his first term. Greg. You just said baddie. And I'm trying to figure out, does mental illness lead to leftism? Or does leftism, left unchallenged, lead to mental illness? It's like a chicken or egg question. I really don't understand. Does she really believe this? Or is it just a political statement? Todd. I don't know. Either way, it's just one big crazy omelet. Greg. Yeah, now I'm hungry. CNN's war on young overachievers. Up next, CNN demeans overachieving teens. Tonight, in Breaking Balls news, CNN is majestically talking about testicles. CNN's Aaron Burnett interviewed a journalist reporting on Doge, who recently discovered that one of its newly hired young employees went by a fun nickname online. Fred. Roll the clip. CNN host. Your latest story focuses on a 19-year-old software engineer working at Doge. This is a 19-year-old high school graduate who has used the unfortunate nickname Big Balls online. So that's one way we could refer to him. CNN's panic over Big Balls. Greg. Now, you look at these young men who are in data, handling private information about millions of Americans. And CNN is freaking out about a nickname? Big Balls? Laughter. An all-female panel. 2. So inappropriate. The kid also founded several companies, including one with an eyebrow-raising name. CNN host. This individual has founded multiple companies, including one with another unfortunate name, Tesla's Sexy LLC, which he established in 2021, when he was around 16 years old. Greg. Okay, he was already a software engineer at 16 and founded multiple companies. Meanwhile, these CNN chuckle buckets were probably just learning how to use their VCRs at 16. I know what I was doing at 16, I didn't found any companies. But I did once find an old Playboy in the park. Todd. Bra bra bra. Greg. Yeah, exactly. Isn't it great how CNN has to pretend to be outraged? Like they can't even laugh about it. Meanwhile, I imagine that this kid and his friends are sitting there watching CNN like, whoa, did you see that? My whole life has led up to this moment. CNN's hypocrisy and the attack on humor. Cat. It's incredible that this is their angle, embarrassing online names. And they just leave out the fact that he was 16 when he was founding companies. So yeah, the worst kind of person is the humorless scold. I hate when people act like if you're silly sometimes or maybe a little vulgar, it means you can't also be good at anything. It's the worst. Whenever people say, oh, you're crass, you're vulgar, I'm like, okay, and, yeah, so, who cares? Going by Big Balls is victimless. It's people who are boring and jealous of someone who's maybe not boring, has a sense of humor, and can be silly, but also accomplish things at the same time. That drives them nuts. And I think the root of the issue is that they're disappointed in something about themselves. Todd on the Big Balls debate. Greg. Speaking of being disappointed in themselves, Todd. Todd. Yes, sir? Greg. Could you make the argument that this is offensive to men with abnormally large testicles? But they're too quiet to speak up? Todd. I must admit, I did not prepare myself for a question on abnormally large testicles. But I would like to take umbrage with something that Rob said. And I apologize for calling you out on national TV. But nobody in that age group, I've seen the demo numbers, is watching CNN. So you can guarantee that this kid is not watching CNN. Todd. I will just add, shouldn't the American people, Greg, be excited to have somebody like this? Someone who is so confident in his anatomy. And who is going after the deep state in permanent Washington. Because he doesn't care. He's going after them and saving your taxpayer dollars. Greg. By the way, Todd, I always notice, if I don't get them in blocks A and B, that's when I go to the red meat. Works every time. Am I right? Todd. Classic pyro. Did you practice that one in the mirror? Greg. Why do you think the 21st floor bathroom was locked for 4 hours? CNN's overreaction and the power of names. Greg. Den. Do you find this as offensive as the CNN host did? Den. If I was clicking through channels, that banner would make me stop. Greg. That's true. That's true. Den. The banner is great. Just like, if old potato face with no chin was gaining some weight, I'd stop, just to ponder what he's been eating. Or drunk Don Lemon on New Year's Eve. That's enough to make me watch for a few seconds. Den. Only a young man, a teenager, would think that big balls or large testicles was something to brag about. Later in your 20s, when you've been with a lot of women, they'll have told you, no, 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 den. So I came up with some better names. If you're going to have a calling card like that, how about Conqueror, Ko-Skoto, Dragon, like that one, right? Or, I've said this before on this show. Dig Gazin. Greg. That's true. You know what Doge should do? They should just start registering. See more butts. Jack me off. Just to get CNN to report on it. Den. Or IP freely. Greg. Yeah, all those crank call names from when you were a kid, or maybe 2 weeks ago. Legos and the LGBTQ+ controversy. Greg. Alright, coming up. Some dopes get their grievance fix over Lego bricks. Here's the story in 5 words. Legos are anti-gay and hetero. Greg. Cat. This is a great story. Apparently, Legos are anti-LGBTQ+. A science museum in London has a Lego display and offers a tour called Seeing Things Queerly. It teaches that Legos are problematic because they reinforce heterosexuality as the norm. Why? Because the brick male connectors go inside the female parts. Cat. I love that these stories still exist. I thought that when we destroyed wokeism, they would all go away. But no, somehow, they keep coming back. If you're an adult playing with Legos, that's kind of weird. Greg. It is weird. Cat. If you're an adult playing with Legos, and you're thinking about this, that says a lot more about you than it does about Legos. The attack on Legos is an attack on the family? Cat. I would also argue that heterosexual sex is not homophobic. Also, it's going to be really bad for the future of humanity if the only thing you do with Legos is sit there thinking about this stuff. Todd. Do you still play with Legos? Greg? Greg. I do, because I have kids. I did the first part that led to having kids, but I wasn't thinking about the male and female parts while doing it. Cat. Are you anti-gay? Why do you have Legos? Greg. I love my children. Let me love my children and play with them. They love Legos. Cat. Do you think that the attack on Legos is an attack on the American family? Greg. What is this? The 700 Club? What is going on? Todd. I referenced the 700 Club, and I got Cat to laugh. Greg. You referenced it earlier, like, we don't do these stories anymore. We thought they would go away. Legos, heteronormativity, and the absurdity of woke narratives. Whenever you see the word heteronormativity in anything, brace yourself, because the crazy is right around the corner. It's funny, though. Deanon, you know the easiest way to make money as a writer these days? Just take an everyday object and deconstruct it through some kind of gender or racial prism. I thought people got tired of it, but now it's just being absorbed as comedy, like, this is funny. I would hope that somebody concocted this idea as a joke. But the sad thing is, I don't think they did. Legos and the toxic masculinity conspiracy. You know what I was thinking about? Lincoln Logs. They fit together so well, which means they must be promoting toxic masculinity. Meanwhile, Legos? They don't fit well together at all, which is a metaphor for dysfunction. Kind of like trying to, engage in adult activities when you have certain issues. What Legos were you playing with? Because the Legos I had in the 70s were cheap and barely worked. Like Peyronie's disease, where, well, things don't align. Are you sure those were Legos? We had poor people Legos. They were called potatoes. The evolution of Legos and their political implications. It's true, when we were growing up, the Legos of old were nothing like they are now. Now, Legos are an adult hobby. Just wait until these people discover super elastic bubble plastic, or slip and slides. Or worse, lawn darts. Oh, those were really fun. But if you're looking for something heteronormative, think about it. You're throwing a dart into the dirt. I mean, that's as symbolic as it gets. What are the non-heteronormative toys? So, if Legos are bad, then what are the non-heteronormative toys? G.I. Joe? Oh yeah, gayest toy ever. I always thought Stretch Armstrong was a contender. Though, Stretch Armstrong and G.I. Joe probably run a flower shop together. Also, let's be honest, Raggedy Ann and Raggedy Andy? Never saw them together. Raggedy Ann was probably Raggedy Andy's stage name. He was drag before it was trendy. A serious debate on the subway stairs. Alright, let's move on before the audience mutinies. Up next, viewer mail. We have time for one question. What unrecognized or obscure group deserves to have its history recognized for a whole month? Interesting question. Rob, you're a history guy, any thoughts? Rob. Absolutely. The people who go up the subway stairs and then move to the side. Those are great American heroes. They should be celebrated. Actually, I think we should have a month where we're allowed to beat down the people who don't move. Like a stairway purge. That's very specific. Todd's perspective on overlooked groups. Todd, please don't say morning hosts. You deserve nothing. Todd, you know what time I get up? No, I actually have a real answer. Gen Xers. We're doing all the damn work. We're raising kids. We're raising our parents. We're running the government and corporations. Meanwhile, other generations make a TikTok video about how hard their 9-to-5 life is. And suddenly, we all have to cater to them. No, General Xers deserve respect. Let's go. Gen Xers in the audience. Shameless. Absolutely shameless. Boomers. Deadheads. And the great LSD debate. Greg Gutfeld. You're such a typical boomer. Isn't he? He's a boomer trapped in a Gen X body. Denon. Deadheads. But only the ones who saw the dead when Jerry was alive. None of these satellite band phonies. So, what do? Just get high for a month. Denon. Pretty much. Just trip our balls off. Would they be the big balls from earlier? Denon. The size of Rhode Island. That's what LSD does. That's a heartwarming suggestion. The struggle of people who are always cold. Cat. I have a simple answer. People who are cold. Just one day, where the thermostat is set for people who are cold. One day where we get to be warm. It would be amazing. You're going to be the Rosa Parks of the cold. Turn up the thermostat. Cat. No. I hate when people, and by people, I mean men, say, it's not that big of a deal. Stop complaining about it. Oh yeah? Then turn it up 3 degrees and see how not big of a deal it is. Or put your cold hand on their crotch. Oh, we have a name for that on the 3rd floor. We call it the cutout. Alright, we'll be right back. Life lesson from the madness. Stay grounded in reality. In a world where Legos are suddenly controversial, where hard-working young people are mocked for their success, and where political overreactions lead to self-inflicted harm, the key to staying sane is embracing common sense. Don't let the noise of outrage culture dictate your values. Focus on personal growth, accountability, and resilience rather than falling for manufactured grievances. Remember, true strength comes from knowing when to laugh at the absurd, when to fight for what matters, and when to simply step aside from the madness and live your life with purpose.